everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am bringing you part 1 of my June wrap-up. In June, I participated in 2 readathons. I participated in the Whateverthon, which was hosted by Book Browsing Blog, as well as several other booktubers, and then I also participated in the Manga Pride Readathon, which was hosted by 3 other manga tubers. So I read about 28 things in the month of June. It was quite a great reading month for me. I have not read that many things in a month in quite a while, but this reminded me why I do not do wrap-ups, or why I try to get away from them. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I kind of started doing more specific type of wrap-ups, where I was doing like continuing the series, where I would talk about books that I had read that were continuing in the series, or I would do first impressions videos, which I still do as part of Book One Cozy's Club, and the manga videos that I do, and series thoughts videos where I talk about my thoughts on an entire series or series that I had recently finished, and those were working out a little bit better for me. But this year, since I started doing my TBR game, I decided to try to go back to doing the monthly wrap-ups, and I don't think that's going to work very well, especially not when I'm participating in so many readathons. But I'm here today to bring you, like I said, the first part. This is just going to be the novels that I read in the month of June. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on all of the manga that I read in the month of June, stay tuned for part 2 of this wrap-up, which will be my manga reading log. That will be posted soon, so keep an eye out for that. But because the video is probably going to be really long, if I combined both types of things, I decided to go ahead and split them off. So anyway, as far as the books go, I read 4 books in the month of June. The rest was manga. So you can see the breakdown of how I read things, and obviously the way I got to 28 things in the month was by reading a lot of manga, and that was because of the Manga Pride Readathon. So let me go through the books that I read with you during the month of June. I also DNF'd a book, which I will get into in a little bit, but I'm just going to let you know what books I read in no particular order, starting with R.L. Stein's Truth or Dare. This is from the Fear Street series. I think this is number 32 or something like that. And this one, we are following 2 friends who are going to one of the friends' family's ski kind of vacation home to just have like a nice getaway with a few other of their friends. And while they are passing time on their first night there, they decide to go ahead and play a truth or dare game, and the game doesn't go very well. Somebody gets really irritated, angry about one of the questions that are asked, and then because the mood of the group had gotten kind of, down from that situation, they decide to call it a night. The next morning, one of them is dead. So they need to find out between them who of the people at this vacation home killed the victim. And I don't know that I've read this one before. This was one of the ones that I had picked up at a library book sale. I do that from time to time because these were books that I really enjoyed when I was growing up, and so when I see them, I just grab them. And I've been enjoying revisiting, rereading, reading ones that I hadn't read before in the last few months. And so this was part of my BookTube spin stack. If you don't know what the BookTube spin is, the 3rd round just happened. It's basically hosted by Rick McDonnell, and I will link his channel down in the description box below. But he has us every quarter, I think, put together a stack of 20 books or things that we have been wanting to read but just never gotten around to doing so, and then he does a spinner wheel to determine what number in the stack the book that you need to read is. So whatever book he lands on, you count down on your stack to that number, and that's the book that you need to read before the next booktube spin. Like I said, the third round just happened. I have been participating since round 1, and it's really been motivating for me to get to things that I haven't put a priority on reading. And so, like I said, this was my booktube spin selection. This was for round 2, and I really enjoyed this one. I thought that even though the size of it is really thin, it was a really well done mystery. I had no idea who the culprit was. It definitely kept you guessing, and I just really enjoyed it. So that was a really good read for me. Next up, let's talk about The Mediator. This is number 4 by Meg Cabot. This one's called Darkest Hour, and in this one we are following Suze, who is a mediator or a medium. Basically, she can talk to the spirits of people who have passed. And so in this series of books, she kind of helps those people pass throughout this series. So usually in each of these books, she has like the main person that she's trying to help cross over, but there are also maybe 1 or 2 other spirits that pop up along the way that are not even related to the main spirit. And I just really enjoy this series. If you have read some of Victoria Laurie's Ghost Hunter mysteries, this is very much in that vein, except this is a YA series. So it's much more toned down, it's not as scary, and it deals with teenagers mostly. So in this particular one, she's dealing with the vengeful spirit of an acquaintance of somebody that she knows. And so things get a little bit hairy for her, more so than in previous installments. That being said, I really didn't enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed the previous installments. There was something that happened in this book that I just thought was There's something that happens in this book that definitely should not have happened, and I'm kind of concerned in how that's going to affect the remaining books in this series. To put it more simply, I think this thing that happened may make the next books in the series not feel as realistic, if you understand what I mean. I just really wasn't happy with what happened in this one, and so I'm very curious to see what is going to happen because of that in the next one. But I think I'm going to take a break from this one for a little bit. I read book 3 in this series a couple months ago, and then I read this one, and if I wasn't as unhappy with what happened in this one, I probably would have jumped into the 5th one right away. But because of how I feel about what happened in this one, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. That being said, I still think this series is worth a read, and I am curious to see what's going to happen from here. So then I also read Tokyo Ever After. This is by Emiko Jean, and this is basically a Princess Diaries retelling, but Japanese, and it has a little bit of First Daughter. You know that movie with, what's her name? Katie Holmes. Just a little bit, not too much. But that's kind of the feeling I got from this story. So basically we are following Izumi, who has never known her father, and then her friend it comes over to her house and they are messing around with her mom's things, and the friend finds a note from when her mother was in college. And so Izumi thinks that this person that wrote her mom the note must be her dad, and it kind of gets her starting to think about maybe trying to get in touch with him because she's never knew him. Her friend decides to become the sleuth and does all of the research and figures out that Izumi's father is actually the Crown Prince of Japan. So Izumi gets in touch with her father through a letter, and she gets invited to Japan to meet not only her father but the rest of the family that she has never known she's had. And there's culture clashes and people who don't treat her very well. And the story just follows her through meeting all of these people, learning about the culture differences, learning Japanese and all of the cultural things that she really never had growing up. And I just really enjoyed this one. This was one that every spare moment that I had, I wanted to pick this book up. Even if it was just to read a chapter or two. I did borrow the audiobook copy from the library as well, and I enjoyed that very much. Also, though some of the pronunciation of Japanese things were not correct. So that bothered me a little bit. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. The audiobook was done much better than I was expecting. And Goodreads is telling me that this is a first in a series, and when I had picked this one up initially, I had not known that. That being said, I'm happy with this installment as a whole, even if it's not a first in a series, which, like I said, Goodreads is showing that it is. I do feel like the story is complete. I'm not feeling the need to pick up another installment right away like I normally do with books in a series, especially with the chance that there could be cliffhanger endings. This one is not like that at all. It does feel complete in this one installment, and if there is another one later in the future, I am looking forward to it. I really enjoyed this story, and I would love to see what happens with Izumi and her father and the rest of the family in a next installment. So this was probably my favorite read of the month. Now, I did read 2 digital books in June. Both of those were cozy mysteries. So the first one I'm going to mention is the June Book One Cozies Club selection, which was Pleading for Mercy, the first book in the Magical Dressmaking Mystery series by Melissa Bourbon. Book One Cozies Club is my book club. It's the first in a series cozy mystery book club, and we basically just read first in a series cozy mysteries. This particular cozy mystery follows a woman who comes back to her hometown after the death of her great-great-grandmother, and she is a dressmaker. She decides to open a dressmaking boutique, and an old acquaintance from her school days comes in with a crisis. The shop that she bought her wedding dress from just closed without warning, without any word. She can't get her wedding dress. She can't get her money back. She needs a wedding dress ASAP because her wedding is coming up very soon. So she enlists the help of our main character to make not only her wedding dress but the dresses for her wedding party. And shortly after that happens, one of the bridesmaids gets murdered in front of her store. So I actually DNF'd this book. I got about 54% in before I decided to just put it down for good. This particular one moved very slowly. I don't enjoy slow mysteries, and I don't feel like anything really happened in the 54% that I read. We were getting little hints here and there, but a lot of it was gossip, and I feel like most of the information our main character, who's supposed to be our amateur sleuth, was getting from eavesdropping, and I don't particularly like that either. And as you may or may not know, I usually do some audio only reading vlogs for these chapter by chapters. I started doing that in November of 2020, and as I was doing the reading vlogs for this one, they are up on my channel in case you're interested. They do contain some spoilers, just to warn you, but I think you can hear my disappointment in what I was reading. But yeah, this one just wasn't working for me. I did like the sort of magical element of it, but it wasn't enough to keep my interest in the story. So I did DNF that one, but because I DNF'd that one, I decided to go ahead and pick up another first in a series cozy mystery, and that was Ruby Red Herring. This is the first book in an Avery Ayers antique mystery series by Tracy Gardner. I believe that book just came out in June. I had actually gotten a free copy through NetGalley. It was one of those download now type of things, and I had been meaning to get to it before its release, but I just never had a chance to. But I was happy to pick it up in the month of June. This one follows Avery, who is she works in the antiques department at a museum, and right before she goes into work one day, she receives a kind of note under her door, basically telling her not to take the job. She has no idea what it means, but there are things in the note that are suspiciously familiar. But again, she has no idea what the note means. And then when she gets to the office, she finds out that the museum has just acquired a pretty famous antique, and that is what she is going to be working on to try to authenticate. And the story basically follows her trying to authenticate this antique and trying to put together little pieces of information that are coming into her life that maybe point to a connection between this antique and her parents who have passed away, which they also were kind of in the same line of business, and also trying to find out who is sending her these notes, basically telling her not to get involved and things like that, as well as several other threats that she experiences throughout the book. So I really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and I believe that has to do with the fact that this particular installment happens to deal with gemstones. I have an interest in gemstones. You may have noticed in previous videos that I used to wear quite a bit of jewelry. I obviously haven't worn them in recent videos because I'm not going out of the house. So I don't put on all of my jewelry to film these videos for you. Once I start going back out of the house and things are open up completely, I'm back at the office, you'll see those pieces again, but as of right now, not so much. So I do have an interest in gemstones, and because this mystery dealt with the fact that it was authenticating a gemstone, basically trying to figure out whether the gemstones in this particular antique were authentic or not, was very interesting. All of the little snippets about the composition of the gemstones and how they go about authenticating it was also very interesting to me. Sometimes when things get a little too scientific or too much information is thrown at you about a specific thing, I do find my interest waning. But in this particular one, I was very interested in all of the things that they had to tell us. And I really enjoyed the characters as well. I enjoyed the little family element because not only do we see Avery, we meet her sister, who's just about ready to graduate from high school and is going off to college, and she's a singer. She goes to audition at a music conservatory, and that's again something that I can relate to because I was also a musician coming out of high school, auditioning for scholarships, and it's just something that really connected me to this family. Truth be told, I wasn't so sure when I started reading this book that I was going to continue with this series because I knew this particular installment had to deal with gemstones. I knew that that was something that was going to keep me interested in this one, but I don't have an interest in antiques. So I thought that because this series is about antiques, that I wouldn't be wanting to pick up another one in this series. But I'm happy to say that I will be continuing in this series because I really enjoyed all of the characters. I enjoyed seeing her sister go off to do this audition and them talking to each other about it, and just their relationship with each other. I enjoyed watching Avery do her job, and her co-workers were also very interesting. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what I think of the next installment, though I don't know what that mystery is going to be about. I am looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to spending a little bit more time with these characters. So those are all of the novels that I read in the month of June. Let me know down in the comments below if you read any of these books and what you thought of them. Are you participating in the BookTube spin? Or let me know what your favorite read in June was. Again, don't forget to tune in for part 2 of my wrap-up, which will be my manga reading log coming up soon. If you have made it to this part of the video, if you could leave me a princess or crown emoji down in the comments below, or leave me the word crown, I would greatly appreciate it, and that would really help me out, and that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.